Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Thursday, August 21st, 2014, and here are our top stories.
Tonight, a special operations team is shocked to be deployed in America. Then, would you trust your safety to a robot driver? And ISIS promises to kill more Westerners. That's next on the InfoWars Nightly News.
But America knows the answer. Record gun purchases, people digging in. Anybody that's got a head on their shoulders is working to try to fix things politically.
Well, underscoring the importance of citizen journalists and alternative media is the fact that we now see, because they're on the site, we now see the tactics and the operation of the police there in Ferguson that we would not get from the mainstream media. Of course, I'm talking about, in particular, this video of Officer F Yourself that went viral, that we had the story on yesterday. He has now been suspended indefinitely. But look at the way that Reuters reports this. They say that he was suspended indefinitely on Wednesday. The incident, of course, just before midnight on Tuesday, they say no one was hurt in the gun-pointing confrontation. No one was hurt. So it's okay. We could just suspend him now because he was a little bit over the top. No, what he did was multiple accounts of criminal assault with a deadly weapon. That's what he did. He was threatening people verbally. He was threatening to shoot them and pointing a weapon at them. This is something that cannot be tolerated from people who are supposedly professionally trained. And yet that very same day, on Tuesday, in the Washington Post, we had a man who is an instructor, a professor of Homeland Security at Colorado Tech University, an officer of the LA Police Department for 17 years, write an op-ed piece on the Washington Post, and here's the title: "I'm a cop. If you don't want to get hurt, don't challenge me." That's his wording. And listen to what he says. He really doubled down on what this officer was doing. This officer basically didn't have much vocabulary except just F yourself while he's pointing a rifle at everybody. But where it really starts is with the trainers, the Homeland Security trainers at the universities, at the police academies, trained by the federal government for this new rules of engagement with the American citizens, treating them as if they are wartime enemies. Listen to what he says. He says, in the overwhelming majority of cases, it's not cops, but the people they stop who can prevent detentions from turning into tragedies. Really, see, the cops are never wrong. It's always you. Even if you're peacefully sleeping at home and a SWAT team breaks in, kicks down the door of your house, and then when you react, think it's a home invasion and shoot you, that's your fault. You shouldn't have tried to defend yourself. You should have known better. And he says, I can't tell you how many times I've withstood curses, screaming, tantrums, aggressive and menacing encroachments on my safety zone. Menacing encroachments on my safety zone. Doesn't that describe what Officer F Yourself was doing? He was menacing people that were not doing anything. And of course, as I mentioned, that story would not get out if we didn't have people standing up for their free speech and their freedom of the press rights. And he says, of course, outright challenges to his authority. You don't have the authority to do that. You don't have the authority to commit criminal assault against people who are doing nothing but standing in a peaceful demonstration filming you. Now, this is what he says in his own words. Here is the bottom line. If you don't want to get shot, tased, pepper sprayed, struck with a baton, or thrown to the ground, just do what I tell you. I am the law. I am Judge Dredd. He didn't say that, but let's go back to his quote. That's essentially what he is saying. He says, don't argue with me. Don't call me names. Don't tell me that I can't stop you. Don't say I'm a racist pig. Don't threaten that you'll sue me or take away my badge. Don't scream at me that you pay my salary, which of course we do. And listen to this. He says, don't even think, and he emphasizes that with italics. He says, don't even think of aggressively walking toward me. There you go. Otherwise, he will shoot you, he will tase you, he will pepper spray you, he will throw you to the ground. Okay, now he says, however, the moment a suspect submits and stops resisting, the officers must cease the use of force. Did that work out for Kelly Thomas? How many times have we seen people who are no threat to the police? As you look at this Rodney King beating, on and on and on, we see this pattern of behavior. We can't cover every one of these that happen. We would do nothing but cover that story if all we did was talk about the police beatings of people who are no longer a threat to the police and they continue to beat them mercilessly. Now, he says later you can ask for a supervisor. You can lodge a complaint. You can contact civil rights organizations if you think your rights are violated. That doesn't work if you're somebody like Kelly Thomas. They literally beat people to death. The shooting that happened in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the homeless man was shot, and we have that in this loop of B-roll that's playing right now. The supervisor, right there, and that shot right there, the guy who was the supervisor of that police squad had previously tasered a homeless man and burnt off part of his ear as part of the tasering. The guy was awarded $300,000, but he mysteriously died on the day after the judgment was given. We cannot trust the police to police themselves is what the problem is, because this attitude starts with the trainers. It starts with Homeland Security. It starts with the people who are funding the police academy. And going back to New Mexico, after all of the shootings that are happening there in Albuquerque, and it's a record amount, that's where it is the highest per capita anywhere, even including places, big cities like New York. In New Mexico, the state police academy put up a shoot first curriculum that one of the instructors there resigned rather than teach. That's the kind of integrity we should have in the police department, where they purge that out, where they refuse to do things that are not their mission statement, that they do not have authority to do. And yet what we see are the kinds of attitudes from this officer F yourself and this Homeland Security instructor by the name of Sunil Dutta. Now he says, an average cop is always concerned with his or her safety, tries to control every encounter. This is how we're trained. For you, this might be a simple traffic stop, but for me, each traffic stop is a potentially dangerous encounter. Show some more empathy for an officer's concern. Don't make our job more difficult than it already is. We should have pity for them. Where is the pity? Where is the concern? Where is the constraint against the American people? I don't see it. Now, if you want to get more comments about this, we have an article on Infowars.com today from John Whitehead, the 10th Amendment Center. He starts out with this article, and then he goes to comment on that. He says, we're turning America into a war zone where we, the people, are the enemy. And of course, that's coming from the federal government. And yet it's troubling to see the people in Ferguson, Missouri, mostly liberal, many black, who see the federal government not as the source of this, but as their savior from it. That is not the case. The training, the attitude, everything is coming from the federal government. They are not the ones who are going to save you from this. They're just merely using this crisis. Now, we see a report today from a special operations contractors in Missouri. They say, we never guessed that we would deploy a high-threat team to our own city. This is Asymmetric Solutions, which is based just outside of Ferguson, Missouri. Now, of course, if you look at their site, they conflate in one of the main tabs there on their site, they have military/law enforcement. In other words, they don't see much of a difference between military and law enforcement. And of course, it's asymmetric solutions. Asymmetric terms essentially means that this is fighting a war, a counterinsurgency. That's what Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs and I showed you as we walked through the Asymmetric Warfare Center's training ground at AP Hill, Virginia. They are training in American cities. They are training that you are the counterinsurgents. You are the people that they are at war with. And of course, these people, if they're in the know, they are not surprised that the same tactics that they point out, they've been to Baghdad, Kabul, Manila, Peshawar, Bogota. They never thought they would go to Ferguson, Missouri. Really? When they train for that, they have a facility to train law enforcement as well as the military in those precise techniques. So nobody is really surprised. They're just kind of blowing their horn, in my opinion.
Alex Jones here to tell you about how you can help spread liberty worldwide while also enjoying what I have found to be the best tasting 100% organic coffee on the planet. For more than a decade, my favorite coffee has come from the high mountains of southern Mexico, where the Chiapas farmers grow their unique shade-grown Arabica beans. We have now managed to secure these sought-after beans in a highly customized blend. Discover and try a bag of the Patriot Blend 100% organic coffee at InfoWarsLife.com. This coffee gives you a long, smooth pick-me-up for hours without the headaches and heartburn that so many other coffees give me personally. Hands down, this is my favorite coffee, and it's taken us years to secure connections directly to the Chiapas Mexican farmers. Drop by the site today, order a bag or two, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Available in original or with our immune support infusion blend. You will be supporting of free press, all the while enjoying a truly great tasting cup of my favorite coffee. Available at InfoWarsLife.com.